Hello everyone, and welcome to the post-game for part 1 of the campaign of Doom. We are going to be doing all of the post-game rolling at this point, which is broken up into 6 sections. I'm going to be using my phone to reference things, simply because, although I've been writing these rules for months and months, in fact almost years and years, I still can't remember all of them off the top of my head. So bear with us as we go through them for at least this first video. So to start with, what we're actually going to do is we're going to do the Injured Fighters. Now, Injured Fighters is where we roll off for all of the models that were removed from the game, which my opponent and I noted down. Ignore the tokens for now, they're just experience. But as it stands, we are going to roll for each one of them. It is a case of rolling 2d6 and comparing to a chart. So I'll start off, because I'm in front of the camera. For my Cultist with an axe, I get a 6. That is a deep wound, which means that that model will be missing the next game. So the Cultist with the axe will miss the next game. Next we'll go on to my Brawler, who gets an 8. He suffers from either a battered arm or a broken leg. So what we have to do now is roll. I got a 1, so my Brawler has received the broken leg one, meaning that he may now only move and charge into combat 4 inches instead of the usual 6. And then finally, after chucking dice at myself, we will move on to my Apprentice, who gets an 8 as well. Oh joy. Let's see what he gets. He also gets a broken leg. What have we got here? My Cultist with an axe has received a deep wound, so won't be in the next game. They've also got a battered arm and a battered arm on both my Brawler and Apprentice. It does mean they have to miss the next game while recovering from it, but from every game then on, they will attend with the -2 inches, or actually in this case it's 4 inches when moving and charging into combat. So next we move on to my opponent, who is off camera at the moment doing the notation and will also be doing their rolling. Yep, as you can see, the hand. They are going to roll for their models and also note down what's happened to them. So we will start first of all with the Cultist with a bludgeon that is running. They are going to roll their 2 dice and get, a double 1. That's actually the better values. The lower you roll is the better. So they have True Survivor. So they actually will get a free skill, not just an experience point, but a free skill when we come to the experience and skills later. So look out for that. This is for the Fanatic with Great Weapon. Ooh, okay, so they've rolled a double 1 and a double 6 from one end of the spectrum to the other. That model is dead, which is dead and then some. They remove the model and all of their weapons from the fighting group. They also deduct 1d6 coins from their stored income, which they'll do later in the income gathering. But what we'll do for clarity is we'll just get them to roll now to see how much they need to deduct. 2, so they will lose 2 coins. It actually comes straight out their stored income. My opponent's force had 3 coins spare. So actually they are going to go into the rest of this post-game losing 2 of those 3 coins, putting them down to 1 coin. Next up, Cultist with axe, which they're going to roll for, see what they get. Ooh, that Cultist is dead. And in this case, it is just that the Cultist is just dead, as it says here. Remove the model from the fighting group, but we get to add their weapons to the inventory. Or to their armory. So my opponent is going to lose that Cultist, but will get a free basic weapon from them. And then the final roll for the last Cultist on the end here is a 6. So that Cultist will miss the next game, but other than that, suffers no further lasting injuries. Yeah, you're not happy, are you?
I don't know. I wrote the best and the worst.
Yeah, fair enough. Now we come on to the experience and skill section. This is where models that have either removed a model from play or survived the game would actually get some experience points. Now, as it currently stands, so far the Cultist with an axe here, 2 experience points. because he removed 2 models from play, but he didn't survive the game to get a 3rd one. My Fanatic here, with the 2 basic weapons, did survive the game and did remove a model from play, so he will get 2 experience points. And then finally as well, my Cultist with a bludgeon, he also removed a model from play and survived, so they will get 2 experience points. Now in my opponent's case, their Fanatic did have an experience point, but unfortunately as the Fanatic is dead, all that experience goes with them as the model is removed. So instead my opponent is going to look at their Cultist running with a bludgeon. They will only get 1 experience point because they didn't survive the game, but they did remove a model from play. Now we come to an anomaly, which both me and my opponent didn't actually pick up on. Unfortunately, these 2 markspersons here, we rolled for them at the same time, but they both managed to potentially put the final wound onto a model, but we don't know who did simply because we were daft and rolled both at the same time and we should have rolled separately. But these instances occur. So I'm going to have my opponent roll now. On a 1, 2, 3, this will be the model that caused it. On a 4, 5, 6, this will be the model that caused it. Okay, so it goes to the model that is pointing, the marksperson is pointing their bow down rather than the one that is raised ready to fire. On top of that, all the models that survive the game, so in my case it would be my healer, my marksperson with crossbow, my alchemist, my thief. My opponent's case it would be their alchemist, their apprentice, the marksperson that didn't get this one here, so this one. Actually this marksperson as well would earn the 2nd one. And then one of their other cultists, all of those models get an experience point for getting to the end of the game without being removed from play. So in total we have a couple of experience points here and there, but I think no one has particularly earned more than 2 in this game. Now I didn't think we'd actually have to cover this in the very first game due to the experience points and needing 4 to get a skill. But my opponent did roll a double 1 for this model here, the running cultist bludgeon, and they're actually able to get a skill with the true survivor that they rolled. So I'm going to have my opponent roll now. It's a similar thing to injuries. It's a 2d6 chart, but you can either potentially pick if you get a 7. If you get anything else, you will get that item from the chart. You can only get each result once. Finally, if the model, like in this case, doesn't have a shoot skill, if the model was to roll the one that improves its shoot skill, that would simply count as one they already have, and then they would re-roll it. So right now my opponent's going to roll and see what they get. They get a 7, so they actually get to pick the skill that they would like to have. This case it could be giving them +1 combat, +1 damage, +1 resistance. It could be giving them quite a few different things. So my opponent's actually going to have a quick look at the skills and we'll come back to you once they've decided. So after a bit of discussion with my opponent there, they have decided they're going to go for skill number 10, or roll number 10, which is Bloodthirsty. So the model may add 2 inches to their move in the combat phase. So this model would actually be able to charge in 8 inches instead of the usual 6. So now that that's done, we actually come to the income gathering between me and my opponent. In this case, this is where we will roll a number of d6 based on different attributes, and we will get coins equal to the amount that we roll. Now in my case, I will be rolling first off 4 d6 because of removing 4 of my opponent's models in the previous game. I'll be rolling an additional one because my alchemist survived the game. And finally, I will be rolling an additional 6th one because I won the game that we just played, because I had 3 barrels to my opponent's 1. So let's roll them, add them all together, and we'll see what we get. Okay, it's a pretty good spread actually. I have... what have we got? So that's a 10 there, a 10 there, and a 5 there. So that's 25 in this case, which is a little bit above the average. Now you'll see in the shot here that my opponent's hand is at the ready. This is because they're going to roll their dice. They will get 3 for the number of models on my side that they remove from play, and they will get a 4th one because their alchemist did survive until the end of the game as well. So let's see what they roll. Oh, that's actually quite respectable. They've rolled, what's that, 12, 14, 19. So they've rolled 19, They originally, like I say, my force was 125, theirs was 122. So they would have got +3 here because unused coins do indeed carry over. But because of that unfortunate roll with the Fanatic, they lost a couple of those coins. So this 19 will become 20 with that 1 coin that they have spare. Now, while on the subject of income gathering as well, you will add up to your loot, you will add up to your stored income the loot you gained from the previous game. Now, in that case, it was every barrel that was, or every treasure, which we're using barrels for, that was in our possession by the end of the game would have got us 4 coins per barrel. So my opponent had 1 in their possession, meaning they get +4 to their amount. I did have 3 because there was 1 unclaimed, which means I will get 12 in my case. So we're now actually in the recuperation section. Now this section is specific to every discipline, so each one gets their own, a rule that fits in with the discipline itself. In my case, it is that I get to roll a single d6. If I roll a 1, 2, 3 or 4, nothing happens. If I roll a 5 or 6 though, I will get a free cultist. So let's see what I can roll. I roll a 6, so I do actually get a free cultist, but I will need to buy them a weapon when it comes to the later purchasing section. As for my opponent, what they get to do is pick one of their models, any one of their models, except their alchemist, and then roll a d6 for them. Now they can choose not to do this if they want, in the same way I can also choose not to roll mine, which seems a bit silly, but there you go. So what they get to do is pick a model, roll a d6. On a 1, that model for the next game is -1 resistance. On a 2, nothing happens. On a 3, 4, 5 or 6, they get to add +1 to their resistance for the next game. Okay, so they've decided to go for their running bludgeon-armed cultist, and I believe this is probably because he is also now moving a little bit quicker into combat. So we'll roll and my opponent will see what they get. Oh, it's a 1. So, as fast as he might be, he is -1 resistance for the next game. Next we'll be coming on to the purchasing and hiring section. Now this is a section that's pretty self-explanatory. It has a section for purchasing fighters, so we can now choose to buy new models. It has a section for purchasing weapons, so we can both buy weapons for models. We can sell weapons off, where you'll get back half rounding down of the cost you spent on buying it. We can also choose to switch weapons around within our group, but they must still be only given the weapons that is appropriate to the model. So I couldn't give a fanatic a buckler, for example. And then finally we have the replacing of an alchemist in case someone lost an alchemist in a previous game. And finally, after that, we have purchasing concoctions. Now me and my opponent are going to do a quick bit where we're going to go through any purchases that we want to make. Then we're going to look at purchasing some concoctions, and we'll show you the rules on purchasing concoctions. So after we've decided in terms of purchasing, what we've actually both gone for here is I have given a basic weapon to my free cultist, and I've also bought a fanatic with pair of basic weapons. It'll be this model with the 2 torches. My opponent has bought back a fanatic. We're going to use this model here as a fanatic, the one with the axe, and they've given them the axe that they got from the cultist that was removed. So essentially this model here has died and then been upgraded by case of buying him back to being a fanatic instead. Then we go on to the purchasing of concoctions. Now in the case of this, it can actually be done in 2 different ways, and you can decide how when you're buying those concoctions. Either you can spend 3 coins, try that with dice in my hand, you can spend 3 coins and you can get a roll on the table, the same as you would normally when rolling for a standalone game. Or you can spend 5 coins and you can guarantee the roll you get by essentially just saying it. So I'm spending 15 coins, and that's going to get me 3 guarantees rather than 3 rolls. So I'm going to use that to get a 3, 4 and 5. So to go with the 1 and 6 I have left over from the previous game, that gives me 1 each of the concoctions, with obviously a 2 would mean that I would get to pick. Now for my opponent, they have decided that instead they're going to actually only spend 9 coins, so they're going to get 3 concoctions as well, but theirs are actually going to be rolled rather than automatically getting the one they want. So we'll have them roll and see which one they get. Okay, so they've got a 1, a 3 and a 6. Now I know off the top of my head that number 4 is the special number for the long drawn death. So in this case, my opponent just gets these 3 concoctions added to their collection. So they're just going to note down a 1, 3 and 6. Now everyone, we come to the last section of the post game, which is the exploration. Here both players get a neat little bonus by rolling 2d6 and comparing it to a chart. What they get is the option to potentially deploy models out of sequence, or to cause a wound on a model before the game begins, or one of a variety of other neat little bonuses. Now if a player rolls a 7, however, unfortunately they don't actually get anything, so there is that 1 in 6 chance, I believe, on a 2 dice that you're going to get nothing. First of all, I'm going to roll and see what I get. Nearly dropped the dice there. I get a 7. Yay, I get nothing. Oh well, at least I tried. My opponent is going to roll, and given their streak of luck, is probably going to get either probably get a 2 or a 12, both of which are really good, or a 7. So let's see what they get. Yay, they get a 7 as well. So that was a fantastic one. We get to show you none of the exploration in the next game, which is great because in the test games we're about 50-50 for forgetting we even had it. But so with that, we come to the end of the post-game sequence. Now, for all those of you who are watching, courtesy of being a Patreon supporter, when we set out these campaign games, we're actually going to introduce a couple of warbands in the next one as well, so we can keep things fresh. What we're going to do is at the end of every game, we're going to put the main game up on YouTube, and the post game will be up just for yourselves, for you supporters. Thank you very much for supporting the channel, as always, and keep an eye out for the next battle report, which will not feature these 2 warbands. What we're actually going to do is we are going to put up 2 new ones, and then we'll do a post game for them. And when it comes to the 3rd and 4th game, we're going to switch in these ones that we've got here for fighting against the ones in the 2nd, so we can see how differently rolling groups do against each other. A final thank you very much, and a final goodbye, and we'll see you next time.